Doug, when did you learn that you had a second series?
Towards the end of Series 1, while we're still making Series 1, our agent knew the head of BBC Two. He was leaving, and I think he said, can you commission a new series before you leave? And then there was a rumour after that he only recommissioned the series because he wanted to give the new head of BBC Two the biggest turkey ever. I mean, I honestly really can't believe that, but it's a great story. I kind of half hope it's true. So we knew we had a series, second series, and then they wanted to repeat Series 1, and we were so unhappy with Series 1 because it wasn't any of the things we wanted it to be, especially the production values. Because it was, my nightmare was that we were going to wind up with something that would look like Blake 7, and I was absolutely sure it wouldn't. And we didn't end up with something like Blake 7. It wasn't as good, you know, visually as Blake 7. And so we said, please don't repeat Series 1, because we think we can get it right, and we'll get it right quickly. And so that's what happened. We then went straight into Series 2, and then they repeated Series 2 soon after. And we held off repeating Series 1 for quite a long time, which actually created a cult all to itself, because people were mad to see the series that had never been repeated.
The sets for the second series were a lot more colourful. Why was this?
It's a very difficult situation, because we'd come from Spitting Image, where we'd been given a kind of carte blanche to change the format. And we were very much writers, script editors and uncredited associate producers, where we could go and do as we pleased, and we had a fantastic producer in John Lloyd. And then we moved into the Red Dwarf scenario, and it was a different kind of scenario. It was very much, we were suddenly back just being the writers, and there were these unwritten rules that as a writer you're only ever allowed to make a limited number of points. When the cast were rehearsing, you could go up and go, hey guys, I've got a suggestion, and people would stop and go, yes, and you go, how about you do it this way? You know, that might be, you know, more laughs in that. And if it didn't work immediately, it was like, oh no, that doesn't work, sorry, go back, sit down again. And there were only a limited amount of things you could do. I always used to sit in the gallery when they were recording the shows, and I could make 3 points. And it wasn't, I mean, I had like 43 points to make, but I could only make 3. So there was an enormous frustration in there. You know, because we were going from Spitting Image, where we're allowed to do and please as well. And I don't really know why we had that situation really. So having had all these promises that the set wasn't going to be grey, and it wasn't going to be Blake 7, and it was going to have dimension and depth and, you know, be great, we arrive and it's just grey wood. And I would go around and go, point 1, it's too grey. Is there any chance that we could make it not grey and give it? And they go, yes. And then they would put something in of a colour. So in a lot of the shows you see multicoloured red, green, blue, yellow tapes. And that was, okay, we've solved Doug's grey problem because we have those tapes in the science room. Then I'd have to go, right, shit, I've got to blow point 2. Is there any chance that we can have something else besides those coloured tapes? Can we have another maybe, you know, because it needs to have, you know what I mean? It's got to look real. At the moment, there's no set dressing. It's just kind of grey apart from the coloured tapes. They go, fine. And then, you know, what happened is they then put another second coloured thing in. And it was a really strange situation. I was, at one point, I was with the production designer, and I said, we really need some shelves in this sleeping quarter. You know, really, you're supposed to go through the producer, you're supposed to go through the director, you know. And by then, I was just sort of talking to myself. And I remember this so clearly. And so, 20 minutes later, this guy's building these shelves. And Ed, the director, comes on and goes, oh, shelves being built. And I think, oh my God, this is me. If he doesn't like this, I'm in shit. And Ed goes, that's a really good idea. I'm glad we got the shelves. And of course, those shelves were grey, and they had grey things on them, you know, and more grey. But I thought, right, okay, we need to take more of a, you know, a role in this, because it was, you know, Ed had a huge, you know, job, so much responsibility, and it was very difficult for just one guy. And that was really the point where I started, you know, to get more involved in the trying to make it really into what I'd seen and what Robin had seen in our heads.
How were you able to experiment with larger plots and get off the ship?
nearly all the special effects budget was blown in the first series on building Red Dwarf and shooting the, I think it was 10, 12 flybys, and the scutters. I don't know what the scutters cost. But they were quite surprising. I had them costed for, I think, Series 7, and they were £35,000 each. And I couldn't believe it. I was going, you can buy a Porsche for the price of a scudder, and not like the scutters worked or anything. They were like shoeboxes, and famously attacked Chris Barry's leg because they were attacked, because they had taxi interference. They never did any of the things you wanted them to do. Hugely cute, and I'm sure the special effects guys did a great job with the money they had. But that was special effect budget blown on Series 1. Series 2, we didn't need any more Red Dwarf shots, so we were then able to spend some of that money on other shots, like Blue Midgets, and we were also told by the BBC, and it was something we very much wanted to do ourselves anyway, to get off the ship and to do location stuff. So there was an extra bit of money given. So we were able to go to fabulous places like Rhyl, which was to double as a beach in paradise.
How did you try to develop the characters in the second series?
We didn't want Rimmer just to be dislikable and just this kind of one-dimensional, ambitious, kind of mad pain in the ass. And so we wanted to soften him. And we started to do that towards the end of Series 1.
Yes, go on, turn me off, get rid of me.
I've already done it. I wiped the other one.
What? You wiped... When?
Just before you came in.
And you let me stand here and bare my soul?
Yeah.
And we wanted to continue that, and it felt much more, the characters felt much more bedded in. That opening scene in Crichton, where Lister's cleaning his bike, and the dialogue was really kind of, I think, and you could feel that there's a real chemistry between Craig and Chris at that point.
Le manjo estes bonega, ple curain gratulain al la curistu.
I would like to purchase that orange inflatable beach ball and that small bucket and spade.
The meal was splendid. My heartiest congratulations to the chef.
What? Pause.
Rimmer, you've been doing Esperanto for 8 years. How come you're so utterly useless?
Oh, speaks. And how many books have you read in your entire life? The same number as Champion the Wonder Horse, 0.
I've read books.
Lister, we're not talking about books where the main character is a dog called Ben.
I went to art college.
You?
Yeah.
How did you get into art college?
The normal way you get into art college. The same old usual boring normal way you get in. Failed me exams and applied. They snapped me up.
What were your feelings about avoiding continuity errors?
I was always assured by Rob that continuity wasn't important. And, I'm just a sheep. I didn't listen to him about anything else. It was just a continuity thing. Actually, to be truthful about the continuity, we both felt that because the series was never quite as we imagined it would be, that if mistakes had been made, either through our writing or through the production or whatever, because we wanted it to be better, we would just forget, where it had gone wrong and start again, without doing huge things. But when you see the jump from Series 2 to Series 3, stuff like that, we just thought we'll bite the bullet and try and make it better. And after all, this is a comedy series. If it was making people laugh, it's doing its job.
Shouldn't this plug into something?
Oh yeah, that joins up with the white cable.
A white cable?
Yep. Or is it the yellow cable?
Having originally avoided a robot character, what made you create Crichton?
Yeah, we were very resistant to having the cute robot character in it, because every science fiction, well, no, that's not true. A lot of science fiction movies, especially in the 50s, had that cute robot character. And obviously the Star Wars movies had too. So we didn't want to do that. and we wanted to try and people our universe with unusual characters, hence the cat, hence the hologram. You could argue that the computer is kind of a cliche science fiction character, but we thought our take on it was, instead of the computer being, you know, the genius computer, the fact that he was, you know, deranged, senile, weird, eccentric, however you want to describe him, that turned it into something fresher.
Hang on, I've forgotten what I was going to say now.
Well, it can't be that important then, can it?
That's it, yeah. Look out, a meteor is about to hit the ship.
But you run out of things to do in the end. We wanted them to meet someone who was still alive on the Nova 5. What could he be? A computer, a robot? It had to be someone or something that was able to survive where all the human crew had died. And, you know, we thought, okay, well, in this case, it's not like we're going to bring this character back in or anything. It's fine just to use a robot. And that's where that original Crichton came from.
Miss Anne, why you haven't touched your soup? No wonder you're beginning to look so pasty.
How did Charles Organs become involved as Queeg?
This is not a matter for discussion.
He'd worked with Danny, and he brought him to the, I think it was the end of series 1, the end of series party. He just brought him as a guest, and at the time he was the Babysham guy, and we just thought, wow, you know, he was, you know, a really interesting kind of character, and we thought, well, we can write this guy into one of the shows in the second series, and that's basically what happened.
What are your impressions of the female opposites in Parallel Universe?
That was an interesting one. Ed knew Suzanne Batiste and recommended her for the part, and we didn't really know her. And then she came, she didn't audition, she just, you know, she got the part immediately because Ed had recommended her. And she was a real stage actress. And a lot of the people we'd been casting up to that point were kind of stand-up comics, poets, you know, anything but stage actors. And so what she did, she didn't actually give us a performance at all during the week. She would just mumble her lines. And as the day passed, Ed got more and more and more scared because he'd recommended her and she wasn't giving a performance at all. And it was actually only on the night that we got the performance. I mean, it was quite extraordinary. Brown pants time.
Dom Perignon 44, sir. In a pint mug, as.
What persuaded you to give an on-screen role to Tony Hawks?
Tony was basically the stand-up guy who used to do the warm-ups for the studio audience. And I remember it was about show 5 of the first series. And it was, I always used to, I didn't tell anyone, but I used to work out who'd done better, us or Tony, with the audience. And at the end of the first series, I think it was about 3-3. And thinking, you know, and Tony was very funny, you know, so it was, you know, but the idea is that you're supposed to be much better than the warm-up because he's not even doing his best stuff. He's sort of like, you know, this is just a gig and I'm, you know, I only want to be here because I just need a bit of money at the moment. And then series 2, I'm happy to say we were in control and then, you know, we won. Although Tony isn't aware that we won because he didn't know there was a competition in the first place. And he was, you know, he's a great funny guy, and he did become, you know, the 4th or 5th dwarfer, as it were, and so he would use him in bits and pieces because, you know, he was funny.
You think I'm insane?
Should we take a quick vote?
Silence, scum!
Shut up!
How confident were you of getting a 3rd series?
There was no buzz. You would meet friends and they would, you know, not really talk about it. And so there was no sense of, oh, this is, a hit or cult hit or anything. And the reviews had all been pretty, you know, not very special, pretty critical. And in fact, there was a key moment. There was a review in, funnily enough, the Manchester Evening News, and the guy who wrote it was a guy called Ed Glinnett. And he was saying, I can't understand why none of the Southern press have praised this series because there's some really good stuff on, and Norman Lovett has now joined the pantheon of all-time comic greats. And he really seemed to, you know, to love it and understand it. And that was the first, like, wow, someone's got it. This is fantastic. Well, you later find out he was some mad eccentric, you know, probably in a loony bin by now.
Hope they got some spare odds and sods on board. We're a bit short on a few supplies.
Like what?
Cow's milk. Ran out of that yonks ago. Fresh and dehydrated.
What kind of milk are we using now?
Emergency backup supply. We're on the dog's milk.
Dog's milk?
Nothing wrong with dog's milk. Full of goodness, full of vitamins, full of marrowbone jelly. Lasts longer than any other type of milk, dog's milk.
Why?
No bugger would drink it.
And then the real moment for me was being given a telephone number, and I had to phone this number, and it was an American number, and it was some American guy who worked for some American PBS station, and he said, Red Dwarf is the biggest thing that we've had since Monty Python, and it's absolutely huge out here. And it was like, oh wow, is it? That's fantastic. And put the phone down, and then we started to do series 3. And so, some of the press came to talk to me, and I said, oh, we just got this call. And apparently, Red Dwarf's bigger than, you know, this guy told me Red Dwarf's bigger than Monty Python in America. And then that was all over the press. And it was like, Red Dwarf, huge cult hit all over the world. And it was like, it was just this one bloke. It just, oh, well, all right, never mind, what the hell. And as it you know, turned out, it wasn't just one bloke, but that was, you know, and I wasn't trying to mislead anyone. It was just, you know, that was their story, and that's how it was painted. And then, series 3, it became, the story was how big a hit Red Dwarf was. It was a huge cult hit in America, and therefore it must be a cult hit here because it was huge, huge in America.
Thank you.
Thank you.